Mr. Chair, part po ng katotohanan na gusto ko pong ibahagi, Program Paghilom continues to care for the widows as we speak. This is a list of all dead people na mga tatay, mga kapatid, mga breadwinners, nagpapaaral, nagtatrabaho para sa kanilang pamilya. This is the list. 10 of them are minors. Most o 98% of them are breadwinners. Ito po ay 312. Madami pa ho, o 322, I'm sorry. Rise Up for Life has hundreds perhaps. I would like to suggest, invite now Cardinal Ambo. He has more than 1,000 under his care. Father Bong from the Vincentians, Bong Sarabia, the Diocese of Novaliches. Meron pong 5 o 6 na aktibong grupo na kumikilos para sa pagkalinga ng mga Tukhang simula 2016. Death threat po ang inabot, sedition case at patuloy na panghusga. Pero hindi po kami pwedeng tumalikod sa sinumpaan na ang buhay ay sagrado. Inaalay namin po ang katotohanan ito sa inyong magiting na pag-iimbestiga. Maraming salamat po at nais ko pong bigyan ng pagkakataon sana sa munting sandali ang mga nanay.
Okay, thank you, Father Flavi. Sino po yung nanay nandito? Pwede po nga imbitahan po kayo dito sa... Nay, pwede po kayo magpakilala, Nay, at kung ano yung...
Ako po si Arsenia Chico. Nanay ng dalawang pinatay po nila. 2016 po. December 29. Habang yung anak ko po nagpunta sa kanyang ate, kasama po yung anak niya at saka yung asawa niya para po manghiram ng pera. Pagdating po ng mga alas 7 ng gabi, pag uwi po nila, napadaan po sila dun sa bahay ng kumpare niya, niyaya po siya. Pinauwi niya po yung kanyang asawa, pinauna niya na po yung kanyang asawa, tsaka po yung kanyang anak na bunso. Hindi pa po nakakalayo yung mag-ina, nagkagulo na po, kasi po yung bahay po ng kumpare niya, pinasok po ng mga nakamotor na lalaki. Tapos po, narinig na lang po nila, nagkakaroon na lang po ng putukan. Yun nga po, isa yung anak ko sa napatay. January 11 po, nung ilibing siya, kinabukasan po, January 12, yung isa ko naman pong anak, na wala naman pong kamalay-malay, na pumunta lang po sa biyanan, nadamay din po. Wala naman po siyang ginagawang masama. Kaya po, napakasakit para sa aming mga magulang. Ang nangyari, dahil po, siya po yung inaasahan namin, siya po yung tumutulong sa amin, ng asawa ko. Mayroon po siyang pamangkin na tinutulungan mag-aral na ngayon po hindi na nakakapag-aral. Tapos po yung dumating po yung pagkakataon na iniwan namin yung bahay namin sa loob ng 5 taon dahil sa sobrang takot. Ngayon po, lumapit po kami rito para humingi ng tulong sa inyo. Nagpapasalamat po ako kay Father Flavi sa committee pong ito dahil nabigyan kami ng pagkakataon na makapagsalita. Sana po tulungan niyo kami na mabigyan ng katarungan para po maging mapayapa naman din po ang isip namin. Dahil nung ilibing po yung anak ko, sinabi ko po sa kanila na darating ang araw na mabibigyan din namin sila ng katarungan. Sana po, ito na po yung pagkakataon na magkaroon kami ng katarungang mahihirap. Sana po, managot po yung dapat managot. Walang taon pong hindi ko pa matanggap ang nangyari. Pag naaalala ko po sila, hirap na hirap po akong tanggapin ang katotohanan dahil wala naman pong kasalanan ng anak ko. Sana po, matulungan niyo po kami na magkaroon ng katarungan.
Sige po,
Salamat
Nay.
po.
Salamat po, Nay. Salamat po.
Mr. Chair, gusto ko lang tanungin kung ilang taon po yung mga anak niya. 2 anak po niya napatay?
Yung una pong namatay, 34 po nung mamatay. Yung isa po 25. Bali po yung isa 8 taon, yung isa po 17 taon na.
Sige po, Nay. Salamat po.
Salamat po.
Mr. Chair, may tanong lang po ako kay Nanay. Nanay, yung 2 anak niyo po magkasunod pong araw na napatay?
Hindi po yung...
Ilan pong araw ang pagitan?
Yung isa po namatay po ng December 29, 2016.
Kakapasko lang.
Magbabagong taon po. Yung isa naman po, January 2, 2017.
Hindi,
Isang linggo lang po.
Ilang linggo lang.
Isang, ano po, isang,
2016 of December, and then January of 2017.
December 29 po, 2016 yung isa. Yung isa naman po, January 12, 2017.
Following year lang.
Sige po, Nay. Maraming salamat. Meron pa ho tayo
Saan pong lugar? Saan pong lugar yan?
Caloocan po.
Caloocan. Nandiyan ba si Kendall Patay? At ano pala siya, no? Sa Quezon City.
Sige po, Nay. Pwede pong magpakilala kayo, Nay?
Ako po si Elizabeth Campo. Asawa ko po yung pinatay noong October 11, 2017. Naglalaba lang po yung asawa ko. Bigla po pumasok po yung mga pulis at pinaalis lahat po ng tao sa lugar namin. Kakausapin lang daw po yung asawa ko. Sabi po sa anak ko. Pagkatapos po, hindi po ako nila papasukin sa lugar namin. Pinaikot-ikot ko na po yung lugar namin eh. Ayaw po ako talaga papasukin. Pati po yung mga apo ko, nagtatakbuhan na po, nag-alisan, pinalis din po nila. Yung apo ko naman po si Danica, kitang-kita niya po, nakatutok ang baril sa kanyang lolo. Nung umikot na po ako, may narinig na po akong 2 putok at naramdaman ko po sa sarili ko, asawa ko na yun. Kasi 3 po silang naiwan eh. Yung isa po si Sherwin Vitas, na pinatay din po nila, hindi lang po nakasama yung asawa rito kasi may sakit po yung anak. Yung isa naman pong alaga namin na yung isang bata na 16 anyos, wala na pong magulang. Kaya hindi na po naintindi. Ang akin lang po, itong taon na po, wala pong nangyayari sa kaso ng asawa ko. Siya lang po ang kadamay ko sa buhay. Wala naman po akong kasama. Ang dami ko po nga po, 13. Kaming dalawa lang pong nagasikaso. Wala pong 5 nagasikaso. Ang mga anak ko po, 2 lalaki at 1 babae. Puro po may mga asawa na. Pero nakapiling pa rin po namin. Ang pinagtatakaan ko lang po, sinasabi nila lumalaban, naglaban ang asawa ko. Eh naglalaban lang po yung asawa ko. Hindi po siya lalaban. Dahil wala po kami kaarmas-armas kahit anong pinagbibintangan po, nagbebenta ng shabu. Paano po magbebenta ng shabu? E samantalang ganito na po ang buhay namin mulat sa pool. Ako lang po nagtitinda, siya po namimili. Ako po naglalako para po mapag-aral. Wala po na namatay yung asawa ko at tinukang nila. Nahinto po sa pag-aaral ng mga apo ko. Hindi po nakapag-aaral ng 2 taon. Kasi wala po ako itutustos eh. At yung mga anak ko po, mga nagtatago. Kasi may mga pulis na pumupunta na tinatarget baka daw po kami magsumbong. Ang inaalala ko lang po sana, gusto ko lang po mangyari. Sana mabigyan po ng katarungan yung pagkamatay po ng asawa ko. Yun lang po ang inaangat ko. Kasi mulat sa pool po nung namatay noong 2018 ay 2017, wala pong nangyayari o anumang bagay. Humingi lang po kami ng tulong kay Father para pumasikaso yung pamilya ko. Kasi siya lang po ang susuporta sa amin. Ako na lang po kasi ang natitira eh. Ang mga kapatid
Sige po,
ng
Nay.
asawa ko.
Maraming salamat po.
Sana po mabigyan niyo po ng katarungan ng
Gagawin po namin ang lahat.
pagkamatay po ng asawa ko. Salamat po.
Okay. Father, 2 lang po ang naimbitahan natin, no?
Mr. Chair, I would like to conclude sana, but I would allow my field coordinator, Randy De Los Santos, the uncle of Kian, to do the conclusion in my behalf.
Sige po. Mr. De Los Santos, pwede pong... ayaw po namin kayo madaliin because alam ko pong importante yung gusto nyong sabihin. Pero dahil po napakarami po ng ating gustong pagbigyan at pakinggan, I hope we can shorten it a little. Salamat po.
Magandang gabi na ho, no? Ginoong Tagapangulo at sa ating kagalang-galang na komite. Bilang field coordinator po ng program Paghilom, nais po sana namin pasalamatan at nais ipaabot po ng mga pamilya sa kagalang-galang na komiteng ito ang kanilang pasasalamat po. Simula po ng inyong binuksan ang pag-iimbestiga, may kaugnayan sa mga nangyari po. Siguro po nais po sana namin gamitin ang salitang tukhang ngayong hapon. Nais po namin tumuktok, humangyo sa bawat puso po ng nasa komiting ito upang gaya po ng binanggit, nais po nila ng katarungan. Nais po namin ng katarungan, Ginoong Tagapangulo. At sana po sa tulong po ninyo, sa inyo pong katalinuhan, sa inyo pong kakayanan, umaasa po kami na maibigay po ito sa lalong madaling panahon. Lalo tigit po, nais ko sanang banggitin na sa amin pong mga hanay, marami po, Ginoong Tagapangulo, ang pinatay. May mga police report po, pero hindi po naimbestigahan. Sana po sa tulong po ninyo, ang kagalang-galang na komiting ito, tutok-tok po kami at hahangyo kami ng inyong tulong. Maraming salamat po.
Okay. Maraming salamat po, Mr. De Los Santos. Now,
Mr. Chair,
yes,
there's another one
Congressman
I'd like to ask. Mr. Conde would like to present someone. May silang ito, no, Mr. Conde, no? Mr. Chair, can we allow him to do that, please?
Yes, I was about to recognize the next presenter. This is Mr. Conde, right? Meron po ba kayong presentation, Mr. Conde?
Salamat po, Mr. Chair. Actually, wala akong formal presentation, but I would like to talk sana in line with what the experiences of the mother na biktima, ang mga anak at mga pamilya, about what happened to Mrs. Clarita Alia. Senator De Lima alluded to her case in her report, but I would just like to give some context on what happened to her. She's supposed to be here, pero nag-back out po for some concerns. But so I I feel like medyo authorized ako to speak on her behalf because I actually know her since the 1990s when I was living in Davao. And as a journalist then, sumulat po ako ng mga storya tungkol sa kanya, yung nangyari sa pamilya niya. In fact, my two-part story for the Philippine Center for Investigative Journalism was published in 2002. This was way before. And then later on with the New York Times, as I was reporting the killings, I also wrote about this. And then my organization now is Human Rights Watch. And they published a report in 2009, which Attorney De Lima also adverted to. This report, this is called You Can Die Anytime. This lists about more than 20 killings in Davao when Duterte was mayor. And one of the highlights of this report, this is Ms. Aliyah on the cover of this report. So what happened to her was her children, 4 of them, were killed by the Davao Death Squad. This was between 2001 and 2007. All of them were teenagers, children basically. Lahat po sila ay pinagsasaksak sa Davao City. When I interviewed her back in 2000, Mrs. Aliyah was telling me kung paano pinatay yung mga anak niya. Ginamitan sila ng, tawag nila dito ay kolonyal. This is a butcher's knife. Allegedly, some of the killers were working or sourced the weapon from the nearby Bangkerohan market, where to this day, Mrs. Aliyah, nagbebenta pa rin siya ng gulay-gulay, vegetable vendor po siya doon. Kung paano pinatay yung mga anak niya ay nakapanlulo mo po talaga, and this was emblematic of the spread of the Davao Death Squad during that time. It was so brutal kasi ang tinatarget nila ay mga mahihirap, marami mga bata in an effort to cleanse the city of what Mr. Duterte was saying were the dregs of Davao society, so that they can claim that Davao was the safest city in the Philippines during that period. Keep in mind, I lived in Davao for 10 years, and I know, I know exactly the context of these killings. So this was very, very worrisome. And when I entered into human rights work, isa ito sa mga cases talaga na tinutukan namin. And in fact, to end this, I would like to point out that this was not happening in Davao City alone. In fact, in this report, other cities were cited there where similar killings were happening. Tagum City, Digos City, General Santos City. In 2014, Human Rights Watch published a report. This is One Shot to the Head entitled. This is about the Tagum Death Squad killings. Tagum is just one city away from Davao City. And in this report, the modus operandi of the Davao Death Squad was detailed as well. Almost an exact copy of what happened in Davao also happened in this city. So this is something that Mr. Duterte actually encouraged to happen in other areas because they were able to get away with this. And in fact, in the recommendation of this report in 2009, it says here that it urged Congress to investigate these killings. And I'm so happy, facing you all of you now tonight, that this is actually happening 16 years later. And I'm echoing the call of the mothers who just spoke about the loss ng kanilang loved ones, that we hope that these committees would finally make the wheels of justice turn, because it's been a while for justice to have slept in this country since Mr. Duterte unleashed these death squad killings that are happening to this day. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Conde. Can you give a copy of that publication you made?
Yes, I actually gave COMSEC copies of this report.
So we do have a copy, Comsec. Okay, thank you. Salamat po.
Thank you.
So the next is former Congressman Nery Colmenares.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good evening po, Mr. Chair. I have a short presentation, 5 slides. If I may ask the committee to allow the presentation from the COMSEC.
Please proceed. Yeah.
Thank you. Well, the presentation, Mr. Chair, is all about the elements of the crime against humanity under the Rome Statute. Sorry. And then the second part are the implications, the legal implications of the Senate admissions of President Duterte. So if may I ask the COMSEC to show the slides, please.
Secretariat, can you please assist Congressman Colmenares? Oh, there it is.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Next slide, please. The elements of the crime against humanity under Article 7 of the Rome Statute, I just summarized it to 2. Widespread or systematic attacks against civilians. Marami na pong witness na nagsabi niyan from Mindanao, Visayas to Luzon, at civilian ang mga tinitira, Mr. Chair. Ang pangalawang element ng crime against humanity sa ICC is dapat may knowledge of the attack si Duterte. Ano ang proof na sinubmit sa ICC as proof of knowledge of the attack para ma-fulfill ang element na yan sa crime against humanity? Una, public statements niya po, ordering the police to kill drug suspects, ordering the police to kill lawyers of the drug suspect, ordering the police to kill human rights defenders. Yung second element po, yung second evidence na pinresent are the public statements of President Duterte encouraging the killings. Marami po siyang statements na ako bahala sa inyo, i-amnesty ko kayo, i-pardon ko kayo, tuloy nyo lang. This is a very important component of the proof na may knowledge siya of the attacks. Next slide, please. Ang pangatlo, syempre, ang testimony ni Colonel Garma that President Duterte did not only set up the Davao template nationwide, but also funded it. Ngayon, tinahi ni Colonel Garma ang elements ng crime against humanity because not only nag-utos siya na patayin, kundi pinunduhan niya pa. That is a very important element to show na may knowledge talaga siya sa attack. Kaya hindi siya pwedeng magmaang-maangan dyan. And then yung subsequent na nabasa natin na nagsabi si Colonel Garma that tinawagan siya ni President Duterte para sabihin, bakit ko pinili si Colonel Leonardo? Dahil mapagkatiwalaan siya sa pera. That actually, Mr. Chair, confirms the reward system in the drug war. Kasi bakit mo nga ba naman bibigyan at kailangan ng isang taong katulad ni Colonel Leonardo para maraming pera, may pondo ang drug war as admitted by President Duterte when he said may malaking halaga ng pera dyan at kailangan ko ng mapagkatiwalaan. Pangatlo, admissions niya sa Senate, ordering the killings at yung death squads. Hindi siya pwedeng lumusot dyan kahit sabihin niya pang joke. That was the context of the Senate investigation, yung death squads. Kaya the moment sinabi niya, yan, death squad yan, yung mga senador na yan, death squad yan, that is a confirmation of what the Senate hearing was all about. He wanted to make the Senate his playground. He wanted to make sure na ang Senado, doon siya magdidepensa at doon niya bibirahin ang mga biktima, doon niya bibirahin ang mga nanay. Pero dahil si President Duterte hindi mapigilan ang sarili niya, marami siyang admissions doon katulad nito. At ang isang dinugtong niya, nag-order siya to encourage the police na udyukan ang mga suspects para lumaban at saka babarilin. Iyan mismo, Mr. Chair, destroyed the nanlaban narrative. Marami ng mga nanay, marami ng mga kaanak ang nagsabing, hindi po lumalaban yung anak ko, yung asawa ko, nakaluhod na po sumusuko na po nagmamakaawa na, pero binaril. And President Duterte unwittingly took out the defense of self-defense sa mga kapulisan niya. Ngayon, ang mga pulis, hirap na po na mag-self-defense na gamitin sa korte because the President himself already said na kung hindi nanlalaban, udyukan mo. So parang pinagkanulo pa ni President Duterte ang mga kapulisan niya by his words in the Senate hearing, Mr. Chair. Next slide, please. Ano naman ang proof ng Duterte and police conspiracy na sila ay konektado? Ang una, siyempre, na proof dyan sa pagpatay ng kapulisan ay ang mga mga witnesses at direct evidence. We may call in the ICC, for example, evidence from witnesses doon sa kaso ni Kian de los Santos. Efren Murillo, kasama siya ng 5, nang binaril sila, wounded siya, yung 4 patay, siya survived. Direct testimony ni Efren Murillo, very crucial in pointing out the involvement of the police in the killing. Jesse Lucadungog, yung kagawad sa Cebu, na kung saan sinusundan siya ng mga riding in tandem, pero yung driver niya napansin na bubunot, inunahan ng driver, napatay ang riding in tandem, and lo and behold, Mr. Chair, ang napatay na riding in tandem ay police. And the police is none other than PO2 Eugene Calumba na siyang kasama ni Albotra doon sa Laguna. That was testified in the last hearing. Of course, the Poral and Belandi case sa Malubog, Cebu, kasama na rin po, survivors po sila. Ito ang mga witnesses na mahirap kontrahin kasi they survived the attack. Ang mga pulis, pwede silang magsabi sa korte na nanlaban talaga Pero itong mga witnesses na ito, sa takot lang nila na magsinungaling, gagawa-gawa sila ng kwento na ang pulis talagang pinatay yung mga taong ito na walang kalaban-laban. Sa takot lang nila, Mr. Chair, especially if they witness the killings, the thousands of killings all over the country. Pangalawang evidence po dyan na ipipresent, not only yung direct na ebidensya o ang mga testigo, kundi may pattern din of evidence. Ano po ang pattern? Ang una, public vilification of the victims. Ano ibig sabihin? Bago pinatay ang mga biktima, publicly tinira na sila ni President Duterte. Yung mga drugs kayo, dapat mamatay kayo. Kayo na mga lawyers ng mga drug suspects, isusunod ko kayo. Kayo na mga human rights defenders, mga aktivista, I will also eliminate you. Lahat yan, public vilification, bago pinatay ang mga biktima, Mr. Chair. The second part of the pattern is the brazenness with which the attacks were conducted in public, in near police stations, as if the perpetrators were never afraid at all of being accosted by the police. Wala silang takot, may police station. Meron nga pinatay sa Bacolod, Mr. Chair. A few meters, at yung Cebu, yung Malubog incident, a few meters lang yan sa police detachment. So basically, yun ang second part ng pattern na nagsasabing state-sponsored killing ito. Ang pangatlong part of the pattern, lack of interest to seriously investigate. Klaro po sa kwento ng mga nanay, klaro sa mga maraming witnesses dito, wala talagang seryosong investigasyon sa maraming patayan. In fact, Mr. Chair, pag EJK yan, medyo mahirap ang pulis mag-imbestiga. So, those three parts of the pattern show state involvement or involvement ng kapulisan protected by Duterte para hindi sila masangkot o makonvict doon sa mga krimen na yon. Next slide, please. Ang Quad hearing ngayon, Mr. Chair, and many of the families of the victims would like to thank the Quad Committee kasi nag-open kayo ng new set of possible victims in the drug war na hindi po involved in the drug trade at all. Dati-rati, these are all drug suspects, drug addicts, drug pushers, pero ngayon, meron palang mga biktima na hindi at all related sa drugs. Pero pinatay sila for various reasons. Ang unang set of victims, Mr. Chair, victims killed because they were lawyers of drug suspects. Matapos sabihin ni President Duterte, kayo ang susunod mga abogado, maraming namamatay na abogado. Can President Duterte say, joke ko lang to? Well, if he says kill, kill, kill at walang namatay, then probably people will say, joke niya nga lang. But the moment President Duterte says kill, kill, kill at libo ang namatay, he cannot escape conviction, Mr. Chair, in a court of law. Ang example ng mga lawyers, Jan Ungap, Attorney Bato, lawyers ni Kerwin Espinosa, Attorney Rex Lopos, isang abogado na may witness naman tayo dito for that, nagbibigay ng serbisyo sa drug suspects, pinatay. Attorney Rafael Atutubo sa Bacolod, pinatay because he gave counsel to drug suspects. Attorney Ben Ramos, a lawyer who was against and very vocal against the drug war of President Duterte, pinatay. Attorney Anthony Trinidad, Dumaguete City. Attorney Edel Julio Romero, lawyer ni Udicta sa Iloilo, Mr. Chair. Those are one set of victims. Abogado lang sila ng drug suspects, wala silang kinalaman sa drug trade at all. Second, victims killed or arrested because they were human rights defenders or members of the opposition. Of course, Senator Leila de Lima is an example. Wala naman siyang kinalaman sa droga, nilagay siya doon because she is an opposition. She criticized Duterte for his human rights record, katulad ng maraming mga human rights defenders. Yung mga biktima, Mr. Chair, Negros Oriental under General Sinas Sempo operations, kasama na po yan sa mga biktima na nilamp sa droga, pero ang rason is because they are part of those people who criticize government at human rights defenders. Meron pong mga Bloody Sunday sa Batangas, Tumando killing sa Iloilo, marami pa po yan. Those are example of victims na walang kinalaman sa drug trade but they were killed because they were activists or human rights defenders. Pangatlo, Mr. Chair, yung pinatay for personal interest, walang kinalaman sa droga, and General Barayuga is one example of that. He just exposed corruption in the administration, nilagay sa drug list. General Sina said, oh, nasa drug list yan eh. In fact, dapat nga matanong siya, paano mo nalaman? Pinatay siya because of that. Of course, the LGU mayors na probably pinatay for other reasons. Probably politics, probably kung ano man, pero they were killed. Like the mayors of Calbayog, sa Cebu, marami yun. And Iloilo, nag-testify naman dito si Mayor Mabilog na wala naman siyang kinalaman but he was included there. Yung intra-police feud sa Cebu, pwede sigurong titingnan din ng Quadcomm yan kasi may patayan among them, which led to the killings of policemen. Of course, si Councilor Ramon Halandoni ng Canlaon City was one of those kills. Walang kinalaman at all sa droga. So these are the new victims na naghihintay, Mr. Chair, na sana mabigyan din ng hustisya ang kanilang kaanak. Probably never related talaga sa drugs pero pinatay for various reasons na walang kinalaman sa drug war pero pinatay sa ngalan ng anti-drug campaign. Last slide, Mr. Chair. So, bakit ko sinabing President Duterte destroyed the non-laban narrative as a defense? Kasi in-encourage niya ang mga criminals. Sabi niya, inutusan ko ang mga pulis ko, i-encourage niyo, udyukan niyo, manlaban, tapos birahin mo sa ulo para patay agad. Ano po ang elemento ng self-defense sa ilalim ng batas natin? First, unlawful aggression on the part of the suspect. Dapat inaatake ka ng suspect. Pero kung sinabi na ang suspect nagmamakaawa na, pero pinatay mo pa rin, walang unlawful aggression, Mr. Chair, on the part of the suspect. Therefore, you cannot claim self-defense if there was no unlawful aggression. Pangalawa, reasonable force. The police should use reasonable force that is proportional to the threat. Excessive force may negate self-defense. Kung ang utos ni President Duterte, barilin mo sa ulo, ay, walang ano yan. Hindi mo siya imi-maim, hindi mo siya i-disable, barilin mo sa ulo, patayin mo. Is that reasonable force? No, Mr. Chair. Presuming na nanlaban nga. And pangatlo, the third element of self-defense under our laws, Mr. Chair, is lack of sufficient provocation on the part of the police, and that is what President Duterte took out nung sinabi niyang inutusan niya na udyukan yung manlaban. Kasi ibig sabihin, may sufficient provocation. So that's the last slide, Mr. Chair, and I'd just like to add. Ang Senate testimony ng maraming pulis, and I'm sure kahit dito sa Quadcomm, may karapatan ang pulis na dumipensa sa sarili niya kung sakaling babarilin siya. That is always the statement of Duterte. But that is not the issue, Mr. Chair. Wala namang nagsasabi sa atin dito na pag babarilin ka ng inaaresto mo, wala kang karapatang dumipensa. Of course, yes. But hindi issue dito whether or not the police has the right to act in self-defense. Ang issue dito, Mr. Chair, na hindi nanlaban. It's not a question of law, it's a question of fact. Ang issue talaga dito, hindi naman nanlaban eh. Wala naman kaming sinasabing wala kayong karapatan na depensahan ng sarili nyo. Ang sinasabi namin, there was no need for that kasi hindi nanlaban. Yun ang crucial. Alam mo, Mr. Chair, ina-avoid talaga nilang sagutin yun. Pansinin mo lahat ng sagot nila. Oh, may karapatan naman kami pag lumaban ng suspect. No. The question is, hindi nanlaban. Tawag nga dyan sa law, negative pregnant eh. Na pag sinabi sa yung, oy, pinatay mo si Juan, ang sabihin niya, hindi ko siya pinatay nung Miyerkules. Ibig sabihin yun, ang ibig sabihin ng negative pregnant, ina-avoid mo ang issue at nag-shift ka ng ibang issue, tantamount na inamin mo. So basically, ang conclusion ko na lang, Mr. Chair, is this. The elements of the crime against humanity in the ICC has become very strong. And with the help of the Quadcomm, I wouldn't be surprised kung talagang i-wrap up ng ICC doon sa investigasyon nila on crimes against humanity and a warrant of arrest may be issued. Ang tanong, Mr. Chair, pwede ba na magkaso ang mga biktima? Mr. Chair, alam nyo, kung ordinaryong kriminal yan, Mr. Chair, wala akong problemang kasuhan mo. But President Duterte is a former president, mayaman yan, maraming pera, powerful. Pag magsampa ang mga mahihirap na biktima ng kaso sa kanya for crime against humanity, Mr. Chair, may problemang malaki. Baka 5 years, 6 years, di pa tapos yung kaso. Ang mga biktima, Mr. Chair, wala nga silang pamasahe, papunta sa hearing. How can they do that when even the evidence that they requested from the police when their relatives were shot were never given to them at all? Sabi ng isang senador, ang gusto ko katotohanan. Gusto ko lumabas ang katotohanan. Pero Mr. Chair, 6 na taong hinihingi ng kaanak ng mga biktima ang katotohanan. Hindi sila nagbibigay ng police report, SOCO report, blatter man lang, hindi sila nagbibigay. Ina-avoid nila ang katotohanan for 6 years. Pero ngayon, nung nagsalita na dito sa Quadcomm ang maraming kaanak ng biktima, bigla silang interesado sa katotohanan. Hypocrisy yun, Mr. Chair. That is hypocrisy on part of those subordinates of Duterte who continue to claim that they just want the truth. They deprive the people, they deprive the victims of the truth for 6 years. And it is only now that the truth is beginning to see the light of day. And we really hope that they will continue, the Quad Committee hearings will continue, but this time around, Mr. Chair, also give a chance to the families of victims who were killed because ang kaanak nila abogado lang naman ng drug suspect, because ang kaanak nila ay human rights defenders lang, o kaya ang kaanak nila ay sinangkot lang talaga kahit walang kinalaman sa droga, because their families are also asking for justice. And the families of these victims deserve justice. Maraming salamat, Mr. Chair. Magandang gabi po.
Thank you, Congressman, former Congressman Nery Colmenares. We'd like to recognize Attorney Lopos, whose brother was also a victim, was killed, no? May I know kung saan nangyari yung incident?
It happened in Tagum City, Davao del Norte, Your Honor.
Okay, please.
I prepared a short opening statement. Can I read it
Okay.
before the committee?
Okay.
To the Honorable Lead Chairperson, Congressman Robert A. Barbers, the co-chairpersons, Honorable Dan Fernandez, Honorable Benvenido M. Abante Jr., and Honorable Joseph Stephen Paduano, as well as the honorable members of all the committees comprising the Quad Committee. Good evening. I am Arvin Dexter M. Lopos, a litigation lawyer from Davao de Oro and Davao City for almost 24 years already. I am the managing partner of LFA Law Offices, or the Lopos, Fuentes Lopos and Associates Law Offices based in Davao City. I am also the spokesperson of the Union of People's Lawyers in Mindanao, UPLM, and the National Auditor of the National Union of People's Lawyers, NUPL. I am also an active member of FLAG. Our chairperson is here, Attorney Chel Jokno. And also a proud member of Akbayan Citizens Action Party, Honorable Sandanya. The past administration's drug war killings are specifically extrajudicial killings, not only targeted petty drug users and pushers, just like what was discussed by Attorney Colmenares, but the summary killings in the name of said drug war transcended into the extrajudicial killings of lawyers who handled criminal defense in drugs cases, as enumerated in the presentation of Attorney Colmenares. Worse, with the daily murders related to the drug war, unscrupulous individuals started hiring hitmen or assassins to settle scores or resolve conflicts through the barrel of the gun. Otherwise stated, the breakdown in law and order brought about by the daily murders and non-laban stories arising out of police operations in the name of the drug war led to the unprecedented murder of lawyers, fiscals, and judges across the country during the 6 years of the past administration. I say unprecedented because although the drug war deaths of mostly men out of urban poor areas are equally important, the scale of the violence is unimaginable based on the official data from the Integrated Bar of the Philippines. According to the IBP, since the year 1972 up to the end of the past administration's term, there had been 133 lawyers murdered by reason of their sworn duties as officers of the court. But, and this is a big but, during the 6 years of the past administration, if we go by the numbers provided by NUPL, 59 lawyers were killed under the Duterte administration. If we go by the numbers of FLAG, 61 was the number of lawyers killed, while the IBP official list stands at 63 lawyers murdered under the past dispensation. Again, I say that this is unprecedented because almost half of all lawyer murders happened in just the 6 years of the Duterte administration. Imagine 133 from 1972 to the end of the past administration. And it's 63, almost half, happened within that 6 years. One of such extrajudicial killings is the murder of my late brother, Attorney Rex Jasper M. Lopez, who was brutally killed while about to get inside his car at a parking lot of a mall in Tagum City, in Davao del Norte last 13 March 2019. Attorney Rex Jasper M. Lopez was an active member of the Union of People's Lawyers in Mindanao, or UPLM. His litigation practice, however, heavily involved the criminal defense of persons accused of illegal drug use or illegal drug selling. As a result, during the brutal drug war, he became part of the statistics of personalities merely suspected of being involved in drugs, yet subjected to extrajudicial or summary killings. Tata Rex, as he was fondly known amongst his friends and our family, was just 41 years old when he was gunned down by, at that time, unidentified assailants when he was about to enter his pickup truck. Again, it was in the early evening of 13 March 2019. In his college years, Tata Rex was a student activist who rose to become the regional chair of the League of Filipino Students, or LFS. Thus, when he became a young lawyer, it was natural for him to join and be an active member of UPLM, and he proceeded to represent labor organizers and leaders, labor unions, farmers and farmers groups, and indigenous peoples as part of his human rights advocacy and people's lawyering. Attorney Tata Rex somehow, in the course of his law practice, became the go-to guy, quote-unquote, of accused facing illegal drugs charges, almost entirely by word of mouth in Davao de Oro, our home province. This led to his being able to develop a litigation practice with many cases involving illegal drugs. I would say he was fairly successful in such practice. While there was a police investigation conducted over his murder, there were no significant findings from the PNP. Instead, it took our family, especially one of my brothers, to secure extensive copies of all the CCTV recordings from the mall management, the CP Mall in Tagum City. And the CCTV recordings would show the events prior to his murder, during the actual shooting itself, and right after my brother was already shot and he already fell down on the ground. They probably did not know that there were more than 20 CCTV cameras all over the mall that captured what happened to him. Some fraternity brothers of ours who are also law enforcement officers helped in reviewing the footage from the mall CCTV system and arrive at an extremely important finding. Based on their initial findings, this is from our fraternity brothers who are also law enforcement officers, Tata Rex was a victim of rogue police units that wanted to profit from the reward system put in place by the former dispensation for law enforcement agencies under the brutal drug war. He was apparently placed on a list of high-value targets, or HVTs. Those in such lists during this time, in the past administration, whether or not the information or the basis for their being included in the list were veritable or unverified or even baseless and unfounded, they were in constant danger of EJKs. Being in such high-value target list, my brother, Attorney Rex Lopez, was supposedly assigned an amount for his head, and these rogue police units decided to cash in by assassinating him. Again, this bit of information was provided to us based on an unofficial investigation conducted by our fraternity brothers, who are law enforcement officers. Their initial conclusion, again, that the killing of my late brother was state-sponsored in nature as it was undertaken by law enforcement officers. By the way, I already discussed this during the investigation of the Caravana lawyers, lawyers from the European Union, affiliated with the International Association of Democratic Lawyers, prior to the Quadcomm hearings, prior to knowing that there were testimonies to the effect that there was indeed a reward system put in place during the Duterte drug war. So this information was relayed to me prior to knowledge that there are sworn testimonies proving that there was indeed a reward system during that time. Unfortunately, until as of even date, considering that the alleged suspects are still in active service, and the fact that a couple of months after the death of my brother, when we were actively investigating the case, I was subjected to several death threats over a course of 2 to 3 months. It was a harrowing experience on my part and my family. And for that reason, his immediate family, my sister-in-law, his widow, and his 3 children, has not commenced the filing of formal criminal and or administrative complaints against the suspected personalities, and I can understand why. But in sum, the family of my late brother, Tata Rex, Attorney Rex Jasper Lopez, concluded that his handling of criminal cases involving drug personalities contributed to his death. And personally, I have an in-depth knowledge of the initial death threats against my late brother. Last January 2019, in the early part of the month, as I can probably recall, the hearings in the courts just resumed after the Christmas and New Year break. I was stepping out of the Hall of Justice in RTC Branch 56 in Compostela, Davao de Oro. I received a call on my cellular phone from an unknown number. Although it was not my habit to answer calls from unknown numbers, a relative of mine texted me at that time also to answer a call coming from a concerned person. So I answered the call. That person would not reveal his true name and instead just requested me to listen and immediately possibly take action. The caller, the unnamed caller, told me over the phone that he was a police asset and he was initially assigned to be the hitman or assassin to kill my brother, Attorney Rex Lopez. According to the caller, because Tata Rex was placed on the HVT list and carried a substantial amount of reward on his head, he was an active target. I pleaded that he will reveal his name or identity so that I can verify the information that he gave me. But he continued to refuse to reveal his name. And he continued instead to tell me that, Attorney, I actually, in vernacular, nibalibad ko na dawa to ng assignment. Kay nasayod ko na si Tata Rex, maayong tao. In English, he refused to take the assignment to assassinate my late brother because from his very own words, Attorney Tata Rex was a good man. Maayong tao. That's what he told me. He added that I must convince my late brother to urgently have his name cleared with the PNP so that he will be removed from the HVT list. That call sent shivers down my spine because it came out of the blue. Why would somebody call me up to tell my brother and warn him that he was in a drug hit list? So I went to see my brother immediately. I had a long talk with him, but he was adamant in saying that if they want to charge me, then they have evidence against me. Charge me in court. Charge me in court if I'm involved in any drug activity. I told him that these are dangerous times. These are difficult times. 2016 to 2019, that was the height of the drug killings, the extrajudicial killings. He also refused, although we have a fraternity brother who is a ranking official in the PNP, and he was a good friend of his rather. I told him to go to our blood. Clear your name. Clear your name. This is very dangerous. But he was hard-headed and said that I'm a lawyer. I'm just doing my job. So nothing came out of our discussion, although I really tried to convince him. We treated that as a serious death threat. And in fact, just 2 months after that call, that fateful call, my brother was EJK'd, was summarily killed. My late brother left behind a widow, his widow, and 3 young children. And the UPLM lost a people's lawyer whose heart was truly into human rights advocacy and a service to the marginalized in society. Just a few more seconds. Can I backtrack a little bit, Your Honors? There is also strong circumstantial evidence that my brother was killed as a result of his handling of drugs cases in court. In the early days of the Duterte administration, although I'm not anymore so sure as to the exact timeline, the exact date and the month that it happened, but during those initial days, several law enforcement officers, together with my best friend from high school, went to see me early in the morning in our residence and asked that we have an early morning meeting at Provincia Restaurant in Davao City. That's the restaurant, eat-all-you-can restaurant just behind Victoria Plaza Mall in Davao City. When I arrived there, I was no longer able to eat my breakfast because the law enforcement officers showed to me pictures of 2 cell phones where they supposedly found out that the name and contact information of my late brother, Attorney Rex, were recorded in those 2 cell phones. They told me that the cell phones were seized in an anti-drug operation somewhere in Davao de Oro. They argued that according to their evaluation and analysis, my late brother must have been connected with his drug personalities because his contact numbers are recorded in these cell phones. I countered that all I know is that he is a known go-to guy of arrested drug persons by word of mouth because he does not charge as much. Being a people's lawyer, he did not charge so much for drug suspects, despite the fact that the going rate in Davao for drug cases was as low as 200,000 per case, up to 500,000 in some other cases. Now, the law enforcement officers who talked to me argued that according to what they evaluated, my brother has somehow, according to their analysis, must be part already of the structure, the drug structure, because why is it that most of his cases are involved illegal drugs filed before the different courts? Why is it that most of his practice involved drug suspects? But I said, that's our work, that's our job as lawyers. And I asked them what they want me to do or what they expected from the information that they relayed to me. What should I do? And they answered that they just want that my brother will stop or cut whatever connections he has with drug personalities because they are starting to believe already that he might be involved in the structure of drug elements due to the extensive legal services he was rendering for arrested drug suspects. So I promised to talk to my brother. A big argument actually erupted again between me and my late brother as he was adamant that he's not connected with any drug structure, drug element, and that if the police have any evidence, they should have filed cases already in court against him. Thus, I believe that these are circumstantial evidence that the murder of my brother was state-sponsored, in the sense that law enforcement officers have already made up their mind that his defense of many drug suspects in court is more than enough proof that he is connected with drugs. My brother was no saint. I can admit that. However, his modest way of life and that of his family will prove that he has not handled any case for a known drug lord or big-time drug personality. Court records will also show that he has not handled any such drug cases involving alleged drug lords or big-time drug personalities. Instead, his clients were mainly petty drug users and petty drug pushers.
Kindly wrap up.
Yes, one final point, Mr. Chair, is another circumstantial evidence to back up the initial findings of our fraternity brothers, because months after the murder of Attorney Rex, they reached out to me again, asking for copies of the CCTV recordings of the killing of my brother. Because according to them, they were building a case against the same suspected rogue police unit out of another case where the victim survived an assassination attempt somewhere in Compostela, Davao de Oro. According to them, the modus operandi employed was practically similar to the killing of my brother. The color of the vehicle used, the make and the model of the vehicle, the attack using a sniper rifle, the bullet used, a 5.56 NATO round. There were also 2 or 3 lookouts used to follow the movement of the target. Those were exactly what happened to my late brother based on the CCTV recordings. My brother was killed with a 5.56 NATO round bullet as shown in his autopsy. The bullet hit his spine initially and then blasted into smithereens his liver. It was a kill shot through and through, and he was not expected to survive that shot. So with these circumstances, it now shows that we can connect the dots and come to the conclusion that as a lawyer handling several criminal cases for drug suspects, my late brother, Attorney Rex Jasper M. Lopos, was definitely killed in the name of the brutal drug war. Thank you, Mr. President, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Attorney Lopos. And last to make his short statement, Attorney Chel Jokno.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, Your Honors. Unang-una po, ako'y nagpapasalamat kay Nanay Arsenia at kay Nanay Elizabeth. Bilib na bilib po ako sa inyong katapangan at kami po ay nakikiisa sa inyong pakikipaglaban para sa hustisya. Ang mga nanay po yung mga biktima ng war on drugs na hindi talaga napapag-usapan kasi ang karamihan ng napatay nung panahon na yon ay mga lalaki. Pero sila yung nawalan ng asawa, sila yung nawalan ng mga anak, at sa kanila rin napunta yung burden nung nawala nga yung mga mahal nila sa buhay. I think that we should also honor and recognize the hardships that they have had to go through because of what happened during that time. Ang nangyari po sa inyo, Nanay Arsenia at Nanay Elizabeth, ay hindi lang kayo nag-iisa. Dahil sa aming pag-aaral ng mga kaso ng war on drugs, pare-pareho po nakita namin pattern. Unang-una, pinapasok nila yung mga bahay na walang warrant of arrest o walang search warrant. Pangalawa, sinasabi nilang nanlaban yung mga biktima, pero obvious naman sa pagbasa namin ng mga police report na cut and paste lang po ang mga version ng police. At karamihan din sila ay naging biktima ng war on drugs dahil nailagay lang yung kanilang pangalan sa mga drug list. Director General Lasso himself admitted before this Quadcomm that of the 6,000 plus names on those lists, up to now, only 1,500 have been validated. Gusto ko rin pong ibahagi sa inyo na sa isang report na sinubmit ng PNP sa kaso namin sa Korte Suprema, sabi po nila, out of 42,268 police operations conducted from July 1, 2016 until 30 November 2017, only 507 or 1.2% were authorized or based on warrant of arrest. Wala po silang binigay na numero pagdating sa search warrant, pero doon sa mga inaral po namin na kaso, iisa lang ang nakita namin na home invasion na may search warrant. It would be good perhaps to ask the PNP to submit their data from 2016 to 2022 of how many home invasions were actually authorized by a search warrant. Basic na basic po sa batas natin na yung a man's home or a person's home is his castle. And no one can enter or invade our homes kahit po maliit lang na bahay yan, kahit na sabihin natin yero lang ang bubong niyan, bahay pa rin yan. At hindi yan pwedeng ipasok ng pulis, ng militar o kung sino man na walang warrant of arrest or search warrant. Kami rin po ay nakikiisa kay Attorney Lopos at sa kanyang pinatay na kapatid, si Tata Rex. Siya po ay isa lang sa more than 16,000 na napatay na mga riding in tandem, na mga nanlaban na hanggang ngayon pagala-gala pa rin. Hindi man lang natin alam kung sino-sino sila. I cannot imagine that there are thousands of serial killers still walking our streets baka po katabi natin sa karinderya yung mga yan na hindi natin alam na mga pumapatay pala sila. And that's why I would like to thank also the Quadcomm for the opportunity to have the victims appear and testify before you. Maraming salamat po.
Thank you, Attorney Jokno.